Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a special episode. Very excited tonight on the eve of Thanksgiving to have a feel good baseball get together. Very, very happy to welcome in Danny Mantle and Billy Martin Jr. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having us, Mike. It's good to see you again.
We're going to welcome in TJ Polese. TJ, welcome
Hi,
aboard.
TJ.
Okay,
How are you?
say hello to Danny Mantle and Billy Martin Jr.
This
How
is
are you?
quite a thrill to be on with you fellas.
Well, thank you.
Gentlemen, he's TJ's calling in from Arkansas, and we'll explain, in a minute how he ended up in Arkansas. But he was born upstate New York in Syracuse, and his family were diehard Yankee fans. TJ, take it from there.
Yes, sir. First of all, I want to thank you guys. This is quite a thrill. I enjoyed your dad, Billy, as a manager. Tremendous. Mr. Mantle, obviously I was too young. I didn't get to witness your dad play, but obviously one of the greatest players of all time.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. I ended up in Arkansas. I went to Arkansas State and played baseball there as a catcher. Been a Yankee fan my entire life. As far as some of the biggest thrills ever, 78, I was at Old Timers Day. I don't know if you were there, Billy.
I was.
I was there with my dad and my brothers, and when they introduced your dad, I know you remember this quite vividly, the crowd went crazy. He was out there with Mick and Yog and Whitey. They all ran out there over back behind first base, and I can remember it quite vividly as a young man at the time. That was quite exciting for me as a Yankee fan. One of the bigger thrills was the 77 World Series. That was the first World Series that I witnessed as a Yankee fan. Obviously, I was born back in '62. They won the World Series, but I didn't see it.
Yeah.
So that was the first time I got to witness. Of course, the champ was in '76. That was quite thrilling too. But those were two big ones, and obviously the '98 season was very important and dear to my heart. My children, my three sons, got to experience it, and of course that probably could have been one of the greatest teams ever. 125 and 50, counting the postseason, was quite amazing.
Yeah. What's that? The 77 series, was that the one that Reggie hit the?
Yes, sir.
3 home runs. Yep.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
3 first pitch home runs.
Yeah.
Yeah. You'd think maybe after the second first pitch home run,
they'd waste one.
They might have thrown one in the dirt just to see.
Right.
That was awesome. That was
I remember.
Such an amazing year.
Gentlemen, there's another very interesting tie-in with TJ. He's related to Corey Seager. His mom's maiden name is Seager. TJ, fill in the blank, if you will, on that.
Okay. Corey's dad and I are first cousins, and we're like brothers. There's the 4 of us that played college ball that were really, really tight. So obviously I was able to watch Corey grow up as a young man and then go through the minors. I was able to go watch him in Memphis and Little Rock as he went up the ranks with the Dodgers in the minors. And then, get to go watch him in in St. Louis. And obviously now that he's in Texas, but I've had a really enjoyable ride. I was out there to watch him in Game 3. And it's just been very exciting being tight. And now he's in Texas.
Yeah.
So that's really exciting too.
Yeah, and they got the new stadium out there now too. So I bet he really likes that. Right. It's a nice stadium.
Yeah. TJ, it's interesting because both gentlemen that you're talking to, they reside in Texas, and they've adopted. Obviously, the Yankees are in their heart because of their dads, but they've adopted the Texas Rangers very near and dear to their heart, and they were, celebrating along with everybody else, and it was great to see. It really was. Yeah. Well deserved. And Corey,
Corey
was the linchpin.
I'd love to just say he's got a hell of a swing, because I saw him hit a couple of those homers, and just a nice Nice.
You know what, too? He's also cousins with Kyle Seager, who played for the Mariners. I mean, could you just stop and think, Billy, as an agent, you're a baseball agent. Could you imagine if the Yankees would have signed somewhere along the line, either as a free agent or drafted them, Corey and Kyle for the left side of the infield? Because Kyle was no slouch either. And he had a swing, TJ, perfect for Yankee Stadium, if I'm not mistaken.
They both did or do. But
yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
absolutely. So here's an odd story. I actually got to meet their father. I sat with him at a spring training game in Arizona. Ironically, do you guys remember when Will Ferrell?
Yes,
played?
He was in the Dodgers then. Yes, you were at those games.
Got to go. I was just happened to be at 3 different games that day that Will Ferrell played in.
Right.
And met your cousin.
Yeah.
And sat with him. And man, what a nice man. We were talking about so many things that I said, well, what's it like having 2 sons? Because here you're an East Coast guy and you've got 2 sons playing on the West Coast. And he said, Billy, he goes, I've got a big screen, 2 big screens in my living room, 2 big screens in my bedroom. We have the games going all the time. But of course, think about it. West Coast games, the 7 o'clock games don't start until 9 o'clock at night in New York or in Carolina where they live. So he's like, the games are going into 1 o'clock at night.
1 o'clock, 1:30. Yeah.
Yeah. And
now
so
I know my has him in his bedroom.
And he's like, we don't want to miss an at bat. We don't want to miss a play in the field. So we're watching everything. And then, he said, my dream would just be for them one day to either be on the same team or God, be at a better time zone would be awesome too. And then when Corey signed with the Rangers, I remember they were talking to Kyle.
Yeah,
and then that all just disappeared because, until Josh Young really solidified himself last year, I thought it would have been a perfect kind of way to let the 2 brothers play next to each other and let Kyle show Josh kind of the ropes of being a big leaguer. Have you ever heard why those talks stalled and what happened there? Because I just remember thinking about their dad, thinking, oh, his dream's about to come true. And then it all went away.
What happened, Bill, was he's got 3 young children and he was ready to go home and be a dad. And like we had already mentioned in regard to the family, we're dairy farmers in upstate New York. It goes back to our grandparents. So he was just, obviously he doesn't have to worry about making money doing that, but he's doing that. It's a hobby, and he's coaching his 9-year-old son. And he's got 2 beautiful little girls, and he's happy. I saw him at the World Series, and he was really, really happy. Of course, he never got to go to the postseason. That's one regret. But as far as not missing the game, it's just, and it's hard for me to fathom because I would love to have played. But you know what? He just says the grind he was ready. So he got the 10-year, the big deal, and then he was done, and that was it. So he's very happy.
Had a great career.
Yes, sir. Well, I mean, you look at his numbers. Other than the 3 guys in front of him, 2 are in the Hall and 1 will be there. You got Edgar Martinez, Ken Griffey Jr., and Ichiro. He's right there.
Oh yeah,
most of the
big fan.
So
he
could play D. He could play D.
I just wish he'd have played 1 more year for his father, because that would have been a dream come true. They were an hour closer to home, and
he owned it
on the same team playing right next to each other.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, just a couple of things I just want to throw in as I'm listening, to it. And TJ, thank you so much. You bring so much, to the show. Anyway, thank you for that. One thing is with this World Series, some people said, well, because Atlanta got knocked out in a lot of teams that won 100 games, they said, well, the postseason is just a crapshoot. I'm not buying that. And I'm going to tell you what, those two teams that got there deserve to be there. And when they had pitching, but both of those teams they were tied number one in defense. They were tied for number one in the major leagues, both teams, Arizona and Texas. They were able to support that team. And TJ, you know that Chris Young did a great job as the general manager. He's an ex-pitcher. He knows what it's all about. Yes, there was a lot of hitting. What I loved so much about your cousin Corey was that it's just not only the fact that he does hit home runs. He batted. I'm just staring down at my nose. I think it was like 327 this year. Batting average does matter. The other thing that we love about him, right? Yeah. The other thing we love about him is, again, old school to the point where when he hits a home run, it's unbelievable, like the ice water that runs through his veins.
I was going to mention that, Mike, about Danny's dad, the Mick. You know, he put his head down. Now, Corey got excited on a couple of those bombs in the postseason, but how could you not, right?
Right.
But for the most part, he hits that home run, he puts his head down, he runs around the bases, and he doesn't do all that hoopla. And you know, he's a team player.
And you know something, he's so professional that when he does show emotion, you actually embrace it. Like it's like, wow, you know, you go like, wow, Corey, you know, got pumped. He threw the, you know, like that. So it's like, it's even when he does that, it's even better, you know, because it's actually, you're relieved. He's showing a little emotion, right? It's just beautiful. Absolutely.
Like
absolutely
TJ
beautiful.
said, how could you not? You know, I mean, that's
right. How could you not? Right. That he gets it. It's like a Jeter, you know, it's like a Mick, you know, it's like, you know, Billy, you know, when you perform at that stage, at that moment, right, you deserve to celebrate. Billy?
Yeah. Mike, it's real emotion.
Right.
You know, there's a difference to me. I get a little tired of the little dance moves and the looking back at the dugout and doing this thing, that stuff, right. All that. Yeah, that's what cheerleaders do. Right. Okay. But real emotion, you can't replace that. When Kirk Gibson hit that home run, you know, it off the bench and was pumping his arms, that was real. And that's the stuff I love. And I love the way Corey Seager plays, getting to see him here as often as I do. He's a throwback player with ridiculous tools. I know he's one of only 2 shortstops now to hit 6 home runs in the World Series. Right. I do know of a skinny little second baseman that has 5, but
yeah,
but pretty impressive.
Yes, sir.
Amazing,
yes, sir.
Amazing. Yeah, just as you said, Billy, when he came to when the money was on the line in the World Series, he was nobody better. No. TJ, I'm looking. We have not 1 but 2 people lined up, ready to talk to. But they're a little bit early, Anthony. But TJ, I knew you were going to enhance the show, and I thank you so much. And we're going to do it again. Okay.
I love it.
Yeah.
Hey TJ, please.
Yep. Go ahead.
Please tell their dad I said hello. I really enjoyed the afternoon I got to sit with him, and
I most certainly will. Fellas, this has been just a thrill. Mr. Mantle.
Well, thank you.
Billy, Mike, thank you for having me. Y'all have just a great Thanksgiving, and I would like to do this again sometime.
Yep, we certainly will. Yeah, thank you. Fun. Happy Thanksgiving, your lovely wife Laura, and the family. You have a beautiful family, and much to be thankful for. Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
Okay.
Take care, TJ.
Thanks, TJ.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Right. Rose.
By
any other name, Rose.
Hi.
Billy and Danny.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Hey, Rose.
Nice to meet you. How are you?
Gentlemen,
good. How are you?
Good.
Rose is a diehard Yankee fan, very, very savvy. Interesting story to tell. She grew up a diehard Yankee fan. And Rose, your dad, very, very special. If you could fill Danny and Billy in just a bit about your dad, and then we'll take it from there.
Okay, so my dad was born in 1907, so he was older when I was born. So he He grew up in Paterson, New Jersey, and he played semi-pro baseball. He was a catcher. I heard he wasn't a good hitter, but he was a very good defensive catcher. And one of his friends, he was friends with Larry Dolby. I've met Mr. Dolby a few times. And he also knew a couple of other people who played in the minor league, some people he grew up with, and also some people who coached. And he was a diehard Yankee fan. He talked about when he was a kid, they would hitch a ride from Paterson, New Jersey, and stand on the running board of cars and go into Yankee Stadium and pay like a nickel or whatever and sit in the bleachers.
That's way gone.
Yeah. Sit in the bleachers behind Babe Ruth. Yeah. So he was, I learned my love of the Yankees comes from him and my mom too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's great.
Danny, Rose has a cute story to tell because when she was working in Manhattan, she was working in New York City. She almost got fired because she waited 2 hours to get your dad's autograph. If you can, Rose, and then tell the PS to the story with your uncle.
Okay, so yeah, it was he was doing a book tour of the Mick, so I only had an hour for lunch, but I waited online 2 hours, hoping I wasn't going to get caught, and people were covering for me. And I got his autograph, and I was afraid I was going to get fired, or in trouble, but I didn't. So a couple of like a week or so later, I was telling my Uncle Nick, and I said, I waited online and I got Mickey Mantle's autograph, and he pulls out some pictures of him and Mickey playing golf, and he goes, "Oh yeah, I golf with Mickey a couple of times a week."
You're like, well, here I am. Thanks for telling me. Yeah. Yeah. No, that was, he enjoyed doing those signings and stuff so much because he'd tell some people, they'd come up and start reciting his, some season, and he'd be like, hell, you know more than me, and so he really enjoyed doing that stuff. So
yeah,
that's great.
Rose, a younger generation just can't imagine. You and I can. We've lived through it. A manager like Billy Martin. You can't really compare it to anything nowadays. And in many times I think back and I said Billy was probably the most popular player, most popular Yankee at the time, including the players. Recollections of Billy's dad, something near and dear to your heart?
He was a baseball genius. He really was. We need people like him in the dugout today that know baseball and can look on the field and make decisions on what's happening on the field. But I'll digress. I always love the fact that I might get it wrong, but Billy always said, I may not have been the most talented Yankee, but I had the most heart or
I was the proudest.
I was the most proud Yankee. That is a great saying.
Rose, it's so ironic that you said that because I had Billy on a previous episode and that's the famous line. And when Billy says it, he goes, I might not have been the greatest Yankee, but I was the proudest. It makes my wife literally cry when she hears Billy Jr. deliver that line. And she told me again tonight, when you see Billy, tell him that. Here's another amazing thing. And this ties into to Mickey, Roger, and all of that. You guys, you're not going to believe the story. Now, you heard, her dad was a good ball player. Now, everyone remembers maybe the first time they go to a game, but Rose certainly does. Rose, fill in the blanks from their first game you go to at Yankee Stadium.
Okay, well, Mike asked me my favorite game, and of all the hundreds of games I've gone to, I've never been to a famous game, except the Reggie Bar game. That's as good as it gets. But my first game was 1961, so the big home run year. Yeah. And my dad brings me to my first game. 5 years old, and he knew some player that we're playing the Washington Senators, and he knew some coaches. So I remember we go down to behind the dugout, and a coach comes out and he gives me a ball signed by all the Washington Senators. and I couldn't tell you one player that was on that team, unfortunately. And then we go and we sit in the second level, right field, my favorite part of the old stadium, and in fair territory. And Roger Maris hits one of his 61 home runs, and my dad caught the ball. And I have that ball to this day.
Oh, wow. Do you know what number?
That's my favorite Yankee game.
Do you know what number it
No,
was?
I don't. It was against the Washington Senators, and it was nice weather. So, but I don't know. I don't know what number.
You could probably go back through the box scores and figure out what number that is.
Yeah.
And you absolutely should, because that might be.
Yeah, it might be worth a couple of bucks, Rose.
That might be 7-figure.
That might be.
Wow. Okay. Okay. I did when Aaron Judge was chasing Rogers' record, and he was having trouble in those couple of games. He wasn't hitting the last couple of hits, and I dug that ball out and put it by the TV, gave him good mojo.
Yeah,
it worked. It worked.
Well, that's a great story.
We thank you for calling in, and I just before I let you go, just want to say, because it's the eve of Thanksgiving, I have a two-part question for you as a diehard Yankee fan. Question number one, and I think you just answered that. In fact, I'm sure you did. The first question I wanted to ask you was the personal Yankee memory that's nearest and dearest to your heart that you're most thankful for. And the other thing is, since Christmas is coming up, what's on your Christmas wish list for the Yankees free agency or signing for what they do for 2024?
Okay, well, that is the going to that game with my dad and catching the ball is definitely something I'm thankful for, and for giving me the love of the Yankees, because there's no better team to be a fan of. And what do I wish for? Ooh, so much. Left-handed hitter, and maybe some contact hitters. But definitely we need some left-handed hitters. As far as one, I don't know about the Japanese. We'll see.
The
pitcher, Japanese.
Yeah, he might. Right. He Yamamoto, he might end up wanting to go to maybe more so the Mets, because he says he wants to play alongside other Japanese players. So we'll see. I mean, there's rumors about Juan Soto. There's rumors about so many rumors swirling around, and you get the feeling that the Yankees need to make a big splash. So we'll see how it turns out. Gentlemen, would you agree, a savvy Yankee fan?
Oh, Rose, thank you. Very nice to meet you too.
Thank you. It was very nice to meet you. I'm honored to meet you both.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Rose. Happy Thanksgiving to you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
and the family. Okay.
Thank you too.
Rose, please find out go back and look at the box scores. You can do it through Baseball Reference. The only story like that I've ever heard was Kenny Killebrew, Harmon Killebrew's son, literally caught with his hand his father's 498th home run.
Wow.
In the outfield.
Wow.
That's cool.
Yeah. And I've been to so many games in my life, and I've never caught a foul ball ever. So please find out, because I can think of
a home run.
couple million reasons why you should.
Okay.
All right. Rose, thank you.
Thank you.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, Billy.
Okay.
Take care.
Too, dear.
Yeah. There's Rick from New York. Say hello to Danny Mantle, Billy Martin Jr. Rick.
How are you?
I'm well, thanks.
Good.
Thank you so much for joining us. Gentlemen, he's got an interesting story. And one of them is the fact that he grew up a diehard Mickey Mantle fan, but then later on in life, he became a Met fan. But we're going to let him off the hook because he's got a legitimate reason. He was from Queens. And when they built Shea Stadium, right, in 1960, was it 264 or whatever, it was 64 probably, right?
Yeah.
It was more convenient for you to go to.
Oh, yeah.
Rick, welcome to the show. Say hello to Danny. Say hello to Billy.
Well, guys, thanks. Appreciate meeting you.
Well, it's great to see you. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Thanks for sharing your time with us, and a happy Thanksgiving to you too.
Yeah, you too.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Glad to be here. Thanks. And thanks, Mike, for having me on.
Oh, you're welcome.
I grew up in Queens for sure. I can't deny that. And I have to say, full disclosure, I am a Met fan. I bleed orange and blue. Thoughts and prayers later. But I wasn't incubated as a baseball fan that way. I grew up, my first few years, my first exposure to baseball was with the Yankees because Mickey Mantle to me he was just an iconic player for an 8-year-old boy growing up. And my first memories were the 1963 World Series against the Dodgers. I won't go into that detail. You know how that all worked out. But then I started following baseball more in 64 and 65. And I had this game, Challenge the Yankees. It was the 1963 Yankee lineup against all the all-stars of the American and National League. And it was very cool to follow the Yankees at the time. And Mickey Mantle, impressed upon me what an elegant baseball player he was, how graceful and classy he was, and how amazing he was as a player. So I continue to follow the Mick. But now, I'm a kid, I'm growing up, and I'm going to my grandparents' house in Brooklyn every other weekend on Sundays. And my grandfather was a loyal Brooklyn Dodger fan, hated the Yankees. So whenever we were there on Sundays, the Yankee game was on, or the Met game was on. Sorry, I couldn't listen to the Mets. I had to wait for the Yankee game to end, and then the Met game would come on, and I'd start seeing these Met pitchers. These Mets are kind of fun. They're interesting. Meanwhile, the Yankees are starting into their nosedive, and Mickey's wrapping up his career. Still, I'm hanging in there to his 500th home run. I remember where I was that day that he hit it. It's one of those iconic moments that you remember where you are. Some of them are tragic, some of them are sports related, and that was one of my happy sports related moments where I remember where I was when he hit his 500th home run, listening to my transistor radio at my aunt's house in New Jersey. And I didn't get to see it. Now I can see it thanks to the internet, but I got to hear it, and that was great. And at the time,
that was one of his favorite things, because he was on a drive streak there for a while before he got to the 500.
Yes. Yeah.
And it was Mother's Day, and he'd called home and told my mom, he said, "I'm going to hit the home run today for you." And he actually did. So it was great.
Rick, you talk about, let me ask you a question, because I mentioned this to Danny once before, that when I used to watch on a little TV, when Mickey was on deck, like the number 7 took up, his back was so big, it took up the entire picture screen. Remember that?
Correct. And I can listen, and I still can hear Mel Allen and Red Barber, Rizzuto and Coleman calling those games in the early 60s.
Do your best impression. Let me hear a home run.
Okay. It's hit, and it's going, and it's gone. A home run. Mel Allen. Yeah. And Red Barber was the big ballpark. It's the big ballpark.
That sounds just like it.
So now I move on into by the late 60s, I'm hooked on the Mets. I live in Queens. It's a bus and a subway to the stadium. That's nothing for us as 12, 13-year-old kids. Going to the Bronx from the Queens where I lived, you may as well go to Oklahoma or Kansas. Forget it. It was that was out of the question. So totally into the Mets, and of course the Mets, had great talent back then. They were great to root for. Fast forward to the late 70s. Now I'm approaching adulthood. And I'm leaving, I'm in college, getting ready to start out my own life. The Mets are rock bottom, and the Yankees are rocking. Okay, they are loaded, and they're loaded with egos, they're loaded with talent, and Billy Martin's their manager. And that is also one of my great memories, is watching those. It seems like forever, every year, those October games at Yankee Stadium. It's dark, it's cold, it's mobbed, and there's Billy, and he's Joe to Joe with the umpire at home plate. And I loved it. To me, the indelible, as a baseball fan and as a New York sports fan, I loved it. Still remember that. The thing about Martin was that the most impressive thing to me all along was wherever he went, he was a winner.
Yeah.
When he was a player, Manager didn't matter. As a manager, he took teams that never saw 500 and got them above 500. He took teams to titles. Wherever he was a winner, and he was a fighter. And I kind of I like those values. I like those values in him.
Well, first and foremost, I hope New York baseball fans can listen to this guy and say, it's okay to cheer for the Yankees and the Mets. It won't cause any ruptures and anything in your body. And it's okay. You only really have to pick one when they're playing each other, and that's pretty damn rare. But I love that because I always wanted Dad to manage the Mets. The Mets are the Red Sox, because as a kid I figured it. Right? I know.
Wait a second. Wait a second. Let me back up. Wait a second.
He'd have taken the Mets or the Red Sox to the postseason, do you think Yankee fans would have ever let George fire him again?
Oh my God. Oh my God.
It would have never happened.
My head's going
Oh
to
my
explode.
God.
Billy Martin in a Red Sox uniform. Oh my God. You're killing me, Billy. And also, I'm going to challenge you a little bit on the fact that you could root for the Mets and the Yankees. Think about it. When your dads played, New York, not only the Yankees, but it was the center of the entire baseball universe, because you had the Yankees, the Dodgers, and the Giants. Okay.
Absolutely.
Rick, you're a historian. There were, I think, 12 years in a row where at least one New York team was in the World Series. And many times twice, because the Yankees would beat the Dodgers like a drum. So, I mean, so it's hard. Billy, what you're saying in theory, yeah, but bars and taverns all over New York City. The fun part of it was when you went into a bar. I'm a Yankee fan. I'm a Mantle guy, right? You go, oh, Duke Snyder. You go, oh, what are you kidding me? You know,
Sure.
you're Willie. You know, that's what made it great. And it was, you know, and I don't think there was ever any even kind of thought that you could say, oh, okay, I'm going to root for all of them, because it's just not the case. There was, I mean, gentlemen, jump in here, but if I'm not mistaken, I believe it was Jackie Robinson at the end of his career. The Dodgers said, okay, that's it. He was offered a contract by the Giants, and he said, I'd rather retire.
Can you imagine?
Right? Imagine nowadays. Yeah. But
Get it, right?
in any event, Rick, we want to wish you a very, very happy Thanksgiving. Thank you for jumping on and spending, a couple of minutes with us tonight.
Thanks, guys, and Godspeed to you all.
Thank you.
Godspeed.
Oh, Jorge, can you hear us? Because we could see you. You look great. Welcome.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you all, guys.
Hey, Jorge, how are you?
Say hello to
Hi,
Danny
thank
Mantle and Billy Martin Jr.
Wow, it's a pleasure to be with you guys.
Well, thank you.
Hola.
Hola.
Hola. He's got a few stories to share, but you want to know something? Jorge, your uncle had an interesting story where he saw Mickey play in Mexico City. Danny, do you recall that your dad did that? Spring training? Was it 62 or 63, Jorge? Were you ever able to ascertain that?
Yes, but it's not my uncle, it's my brother-in-law. My brother-in-law, when it was a spring training game, three spring training games in Mexico City, he doesn't remember vividly if it was 62 or 63. He believes it was 63, okay? And the Yankees came to Mexico City and played against three Mexican League teams, Mexico City Devil Rays and Mexico City Tigers. They won 2 of those 3 games, and he was about 11 or 12 years old, my brother-in-law, okay? He was a kid, and he went to the games, and he remembers your dad, Mickey, who was really kind with all the people. He was all smiles with the boys. One of them, my brother-in-law. And so he signed some autographs to all the boys over there. He was extremely kind with all the people. Since those days, of course, Mickey Mantle is his idol. He's got T-shirts, he's got jerseys, he's got many stuff of Mickey. He's absolutely his idol. He loves him. He loved Mickey.
Well, thank you.
And I told him about this meeting. He was, wow, tell them about our story.
Well, he, you know, I don't remember hearing anything about the Mexico City games. I know that they had gone to Cuba a few times and Japan. And Billy, you know, Billy Martin's dad was there. He was still playing with the Yankees at that time. But yeah, but that, you know, I bet that was fun to see that back then, you know, because I wasn't born until 1960. So I can remember like a 66 game at Yankee Stadium where Dad hit 2 home runs. And so, you know, that's the biggest thing. I was just thankful I was there to see that. You know, my older brothers got to see more playing than I did. So I'm the youngest. I got the short end of the stick. So, but yeah, I bet he had a great time seeing that. Because Roger Maris would have been on that team. And
of course, yeah.
You know, it was a great team too.
Ralph Hoke was the manager.
Yeah.
The manager was Ralph Hoke.
Yeah, Ralph Hoke. Yeah. Yeah.
He was the manager. Joe Pepitone was on those teams. I think Phil Weems.
Yeah, Bobby.
Bobby Mission.
Yeah.
Yeah. And my brother-in-law, whose name is Rafael, he told me that Mickey homered in 2 of those 3 games.
Wow.
And since the ball flies really well in Mexico City, you know, because of the altitude, those 2 hammers were moonshots. When all the people were, oh, what's this?
Well, he loved hitting those long ones. I know that. So, yeah, I bet he had a great time at that, and that's a great memory. Yeah.
Jorge, does your brother-in-law remember the venue, the stadium, the facility where it was at?
Yes, it was the Parque Delta. Parque Delta.
How many?
DELTA. DELTA. Delta.
And how many? What was the seating capacity? How many people were in attendance?
Well, maybe about between 15 and 20,000.
Okay, so it was a good.
That's the capacity, and of course it was packed.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And gentlemen, as you know, right, for like spring training games, usually you might get 8,000 people. I bet you they packed it 15,000 fans. And you know, Jorge, you know, it's so heartening to see your passion for the Yankees. Even in Mexico, not only do you watch the games, and I guess we would assume like on satellite or whatever, but you've been to the stadium a number of times. You know, just tell Billy and Danny some of the memorable games that you went to.
Yes. I've been really fortunate to be in the stadium. Since I live here in Yucatan, I think I've been so many times because I've been maybe in 12 or 13 games in Yankee Stadium. Just one in the old Yankee Stadium, the closing year, 2008. Okay, we went to 2 games at that time, and we were able to watch Brett Garner's first MLB hit against the Rangers, Texas Rangers. We were at the stadium, and of course I've heard about Gardy. I've heard he was the rookie, just called up, and then spoke a hit. We were, you know, of course, and I went then in 2009, the opening season of the new stadium. I went to 1 game, but it was a memorable one. It was against the Red Sox. That game that was, I don't remember exactly, it was 14 or 15 scoreless innings, and A-Rod finished with a walk-off home.
A-Rod, yeah, I think it was off a Japanese pitcher. Yeah, I remember that game. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. But the Japanese, I don't remember his name.
Yeah, I can't remember.
It was a Japanese reliever.
Yeah.
Jeter was on base, Jeter was on first base, and Erod connected that homer to the left field seats. And then I went with my son to the last games of Mariano Rivera in the stadium in 2013. Okay, we went to four of the last four games of him. One against the Giants, when it was the Mariano Rivera's day, with all the legends in attendance, and the last three against the Tampa Bay Rays. I was talking to Mike and saying that I was when we all remember Andy Pettitte and Derek Jeter went to the mound taking the ball, and he started crying on Andy's shoulder. It was a touching moment. And the next year, I went with my daughter to watch Jeter's last games at the stadium. We went to 5 games, the last 5 games of him at the stadium. And of course, I also witnessed the walk-off hit that he gave against the Orioles.
Was that his last?
That was the last time.
Was that his last game that he hit that home run, or?
Jeter had the walk-off. His last game at Yankee Stadium was the walk-off Oppo single to right field. Right. That was the last game. But he also played in Boston after that. So imagine that he went to that game and he went to Mariano. You know, I asked Jorge, I said, just want to see if give you a trivia question. He was at the game when Pettitte and Jeter go to take Mariano out of the game. That was Mariano's last game. I said, who was the catcher? You remember who?
J.R. Murphy.
J.R. Murphy.
J.R. Murphy was catching.
He's a passionate Yankee fan, diehard Yankee fan. I just want to ask you, Jorge, I just want to thank you for joining us for a couple of minutes. If you had to rank Yankee managers, best Yankee managers of all time, how would you rank them in your lifetime? We're not going to go back Miller, Huggins, but in your lifetime.
No, my life. Of course, and that's not because Billy Jr. is here, but Billy Martin is my favorite manager of my lifetime as a Yankee fan. Billy is number one, like his jersey, number one of all. And then Joe Torre, of course. I love Joe, but Billy is my favorite one. And I never, because of my age, I was born in 1962, and I could never watch nor Mickey nor Billy playing for the Yankees. And of course, I've seen videos or something like that, but live games, no, because here in Mexico, we didn't have MLB games by televised, okay? But the first time it was on the 1969 World Series, Orioles and Mets. And then by early 70s, we had some games, regular season games televised. Well, I couldn't watch your dad's play. But on 1988, we went to Florida, and it was by mid-March 1988. And we went to watch a spring training game against the White Sox. Billy was the manager of that team, 1988. Billy was the manager. It was a cold evening, really cold. All people were shaking with the frostbite. I was shaking too, but I was not shaking because of the cold. I was shaking because I was watching him on the field. It was incredible to watch him. Then the managers were coaching on third base. Box, I don't think you remember. Not like today that the managers spend all the game in the dugout, and we got the first base coach and the third base coach. But those days, sometimes the manager went to the third base box to coach the game, and really did it in those games, in that game. Sorry for my English. It's not my
that's fine.
Language, okay. Well, I was watching Billy, as I told you, I was really shaking because of that and not because of the cold. And there was a moment, precious second, when we were really near from the Yankees dugout, and Billy and I made eye contact. It was no, I remember my skin
goosebumps.
yes, goosebumps. Yes, that's right. Because it was incredible. Maybe it lasted just 2 or 3 seconds. We made eye contact, and it was incredible. I never forget that.
Well, that's a great story because obviously he's one of my. I mean, he is my all-time favorite. But yeah, that's a great story. I know Billy loves hearing that. So
absolutely.
Billy, that was a beautiful story, Jorge.
Yeah, no kidding. Thanks, Jorge.
It was.
Oh,
hey, Jorge, you know, my father was half Portuguese and is in the Hispanic Baseball Heritage Hall of Fame. And he had passed when he got inducted into that, but that would have meant very much to him.
Yes, it was also it was incredible, man. Like he said, maybe it was something like this. Am I right? Maybe I'm not the skilliest Yankee, but I'm the proudest man. Something like that.
I may not have been the greatest Yankee to wear the uniform, but I'm the proudest.
The proudest.
You're the third person to say it. First my wife before we went on the air, and then Rose, and now Jorge from Yucatan. Jorge, you're a beautiful person. And I want to thank you for enriching our show. Before I let you go, we got somebody else that's been on hold for a long time, so I'm going to thank you. We're going to go over to the next person. But before I let you go, you're a very savvy Yankee fan, and I want your opinion. We know we're desperate for a lefty bat in the outfield. Do you want to trade for Juan Soto, or would you rather just pay money for Cody Bellinger?
I prefer Soto. I prefer Soto. I don't know how much of real is Bellinger's last season. Okay, we know he had 2 or 3 previous so-so seasons. One was a really good one. But Soto is younger, his energy. I'm sure the Dominican people in the stadium will be going and will be shouting out loud. The sound in the stadium will be very louder, even louder than it is now. And Soto is a one-of-a-kind player. Of course, it would be great if it's not a one-year rental, but we can give him an extension. We can agree on him on extension. But I prefer Soto, definitely. And I like that Korean guy, Lee, Kyung-Hong Lee, the center fielder, who's also left-handed, and he's a contact hitter. And I think we need that leadoff hitter. We haven't had a little hitter like him.
He's very savvy, and what he's mentioning is he's from the Korean League. And the interesting thing about Lee that he just mentioned, he's a career 340 batting average hitter, career 340. He idolized Ichiro, and he also won 5 Gold Gloves. He's a center fielder. So I think that Jorge might be onto something there, where instead of going with somebody maybe a little bit older or whatever the case may be, to augment Soto in left, and then to have this player in center field, a 340 batting average with a 5 Gold Glove, background might be just what the Yankees need. Very savvy points, Jorge. We thank you again for sharing and for being on the show with us tonight. And tell your brother-in-law, right? Rafael, is that his name?
Rafael, yeah.
Tell him that we said hello, and thank you for sharing that memory with Mickey. So
yeah, it was a great story.
To you and everyone in your family, happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you, and to all of you. And really, I appreciate this. I'm very thankful, Mike, for this opportunity. It means a lot to me.
God bless. And we're going to have you, we're going to do some other things down the road, and I will talk to you on Twitter, along the way. Okay.
You can count on me. You have always.
God bless you. Beautiful. Thank you, Jorge.
Take care.
Bye, guys.
Goodbye.
Thank you very much.
Care.
Adios.
Happy
All right.
Thanksgiving. Adios.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Adios.
Thank you.
Bye.
How you doing? How are you, Michael?
Looking good. Say hello to Billy Martin Jr. and Danny Mantle.
Unbelievable. Hello, gentlemen. How are you?
How are you tonight?
Oh, wow.
Good to see you.
Good to see you, sir.
Wow.
And you are Billy Martin's
son, Billy Martin Jr., right?
Wow, that's something. Billy Martin. My father's favorite player, Billy Martin. Ty Cobb. He used to say he has that Ty Cobb mentality. Hardball, Billy ball. And I can remember watching him when I was 6, 7, 8 years old. Unbelievable. Just unbelievable. The heart and soul of the team, Billy Martin.
Yeah. Your father sounds like a brilliant man.
Thank you very much. But your father was, he won the MVP of the 53 series, and he made that great catch in 52. Jackie Robinson hit the ball to the right side of the mound. I think with loaded bases, bottom of the 7th. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Nobody wanted any part of that ball, but we know who was going to take charge, right, Billy?
Well, he luckily he noticed that the other guys were not very engaged on that one, and he did it. But Mickey, Danny's father, took me out so many times after my father passed to tell me stories about my dad. Told me stories about him I didn't even know. In that 53 World Series, where my father tied 2 other hitters with 12 hits, evidently Dad was screwed out of a hit. He hit a ball on the Pee Wee Reese side of second base. Pee Wee Reese is in the Hall of Fame, I believe. And Jackie Robinson ranged all the way over from second base, laid out, and dove basically in left field for the baseball, and it hit off the end of his glove. And Mickey said everybody in the building knew it was a hit. He said even if he could have gotten there, and nobody else probably in the game could range as far as Jackie could, but even had he gotten there and made the dive and caught the ball, there's no way he could have gotten up, righted himself, and thrown out my father. He said he couldn't have thrown out Yogi, let alone somebody who could run like your father. And he thought that the official scorer back then was probably a racist and wanted to give Jackie an error, and cost my father what would have been a record 13 hits in a 6-game series, and kind of goes to show how racism hurts us all.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I didn't know that. I never heard that story before. I think Bobby Richardson, some years later, broke the record with 13 hits. He also wore your father's number 1.
Yes, he did. And my father said to Bobby, and I heard him, if there's anyone I want to share this number with, it's you. Because my father thought the world of Bobby Richardson, and he was and is such a quality human being. I'm glad that I've gotten to spend some time with that man. What a great man.
I believe he's the only person to win the MVP of the World Series when the team lost. That was in 1960. Yes, that's right. He was the MVP, but the Yankees lost, of course.
In 1960, Danny, right? That was the only time your dad cried after, after a ball game where Bill Mazeroski. We won't go into that. But you want to know something, Danny? Boy, oh boy, we don't even have enough time on the show. There's so many stories that Donald could share. He idolized Mickey Mantle growing up.
Unbelievable.
He's got so many beautiful stories. One thing is just it's not the most important story, but it's the most attention to detail that I was so impressed with Donald. He mentioned to me that when your dad would drag bunt, Donald said to me, and he said it just like again, attention to detail. Your dad had a crease in his forearm muscle, and he would just place the knob of the bat there. Just Donald, don't let me steal your thunder, but tell that story. Like a one-handed drag bunt.
Yeah, he would drag with one hand. He would be 5 or 6 steps down the first baseline. Before, and he was so fast that they couldn't get him. And when he won the batting title one year, I think he had 7 or 8 bunt hits. I mean, he was ridiculous. It was just great. I idolized him. It was an infatuation, and there were a lot of people like me, and people talk about it. I hear older announcers talk about it, about Mickey Mantle, and it just. I remember the first time I saw him, and I told you this story, Michael, my grandmother's house in the World Series. I was about 5 or 6 years old. It was 53 World Series. I was 5 years old. And, they said, here comes the Mick. The Mick is up. And the screens were so small then, it was a little pentagonal screen, that his big number 7, his back, he was so broad, took up the whole screen. So I didn't understand what they were talking about, 4 out of 7, the World Series. But all I heard was the Mick. Mickey Mantle, and I said, "Oh," and that was it, and everybody wanted to be Mickey Mantle. He was great. He was just unbelievable. What a player, and the guts he showed. And I had this might touch Danny's heart here. I saw your father in person. My friend and I used to go to a lot of Yankee games. A bunch of us used to, and we knew where they came out at the end of the day. It's the parking lot. And we used to get autographs. Well, your dad came out one day. He was standing about 10 feet away. And my friend and I just looked, and I was about 16 years old, I'm going to say. And he's pushing me, asking for his autograph. Well, I went over there, but it didn't work out. There were other people there in the way. And but I got close to Mickey Mantle, and I thought that was just unbelievable.
Thank you.
Also, I used to have 2 clippings of your father. And I kept them in my wallet all the time as a teenager. And I went to Vietnam, and I got wounded. And I had a little wallet that we used to keep in a plastic bag so the wallet wouldn't get ruined, So we look at your mom's picture or your girlfriend's picture. Yeah. So I had my mom, my girlfriend, my nieces, and I had 2 little pieces of paper, and there were 2 articles about your father.
Yeah.
So as I was bleeding to death on the battlefield, I had my mom's picture, my niece's picture, my girlfriend's picture, and 2 articles of your father. I wound up in a hospital in Japan, and I'm in bed. The guy next to me, he wakes up. Eventually, we see each other. We're talking, and he's from Oklahoma, and he's telling me that he used to see your dad, not all the time, but every once in a while. When he was a kid, wherever he lived, whatever it was. And we talked about your dad for about an hour. But the 2 pieces of paper I had that I kept, I must have had them in my wallet 5 or 6 years, was one of your dad's in the Daily News, and he was all taped up. And it said above it, "What price glory?" In other words, he used to play hurt all the time. They would tape his legs up and such. And the other article was Al Kaline is signing autographs in Detroit in a department store. And some little kid comes up to him and goes, "Hey, you're not half as good as Mickey Mantle." And Al Kaline says, "Hey, kid, nobody's half as good as Mickey." And I can't tell you, I bet you I saw half of the home runs he hit. I'll tell you. I used to watch the games with my mother, and we used to sit there, and it was unbelievable. Just so fast, and such great players. And they always won. And I love the fact that they won. They just kept winning and winning and winning, and they played so well. It was great. It was
I
great.
know that that was, his biggest thrill was going to the Yankees, and his first roommate was Billy. So they hooked up right away, and
Right.
him and Billy and Whitey were brothers from then on, and and I think Dad was a year or two younger than them, and they kind of took him under his wing, but he enjoyed every minute of it, even though he played hurt honestly his whole career, because
Yeah, he did.
He up that first World Series, so
51, I believe he did the sewer in the right field, right?
Yeah, who in the hell puts a sewer drain out in the middle of the field?
I don't know, but boy, I'll tell you. And I remember he hit the home run to win, what was it, Game 5 or Game 6 in Yankee Stadium in the '64 series. Also.
Oh yeah,
yeah. It had to be Game 5, right?
Yeah, the walk off, I think.
That's right. He sure did. He sure did. Yeah.
You know what, Donald? We'll ask you. I mean, because in the '64 series, Danny was asking me the other night because he was on another show and they were mentioning to him, do you recall when Red Shandings landed on his shoulder and kind of separated his shoulder? Mickey was taking the lead off of second base, and it was like a pickoff move, and Mickey went back, dove head first, and Red Shandings, not intentionally, but came down his entire body weight on his right shoulder. And so just speaking about, just as you said, where that picture of Mickey with all of the scars and all of the surgeries, well, we're going to add that one to it because he had a nice scar on his right shoulder from that incident. And it just furthers the just the larger than life aspect of Mickey Mantle, because not only was he able to accomplish, but no one would have been able to walk or get on the field nowadays.
He was like a god to us. But there's a play he made in the 1960 World Series. He's on first base. It's first and second, and whoever's up, it's a hard one hopper to the first baseman. First baseman, Mickey Mantle's on first. Yeah. First baseman steps on first, goes to throw to second to get Mickey Mantle out on a tag play, but Mickey Mantle doesn't run to second base. He pivots and dives back to first base. Okay, so in other words, it was an easy double play. Steps on first, he turns to throw to second for the tag play on Mickey, but Mickey just stopped, turned, and dove back, kept the inning going.
Yeah.
It was a great play.
Yeah, it was. And but yeah, those were, that 60 series was obviously his saddest, because right. We outplayed them, and,
outscored them, outplayed them by so many runs. Yes. But they won in '61, they won in '62, which was very scary. Yeah. And it was just great. '64 was a disappointment.
Was it the '63 series that Koufax struck out the 15 guys? Or
yes, it was. And Mickey Mantle hit a home run off him.
Yeah. But Dad used to tell the story that I guess it was the game that he'd struck out everybody, and my dad got all mad because he'd struck him out again. He went in the dugout and he said, "How in the hell is anybody supposed to hit that shit?"
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, Sandy Koufax,
pitcher, man.
Donald, thank you for sharing all of that. He's got another story that just really kind of brings into focus how the game has changed. If you can, tell your Ralph Terry story, if you will.
Oh, we were leaving Yankee Stadium, my friend and I, and we got on a train on the L, and we started riding back to Brooklyn. And there's a man sitting across from us, and my friend, he knows all the Yankees, by face. He says, "Don, that's Ralph Terry." So, excuse me, I'm sorry. Okay. So I said, "Wow," and we started talking to Ralph Terry. And we just were talking back and forth. I don't know if it was 1962, 63, what it was. But we must have rode 6, 7 stops with him. And he was a gentleman, gave us his autograph. It was fantastic. And Ralph Terry, unfortunately, was the one who gave the home run up to Mazeroski.
Yeah.
But talking to you two guys is unbelievable. Mickey Mantle and Billy Martin. My God, I don't know how it feels to have a father like that. I mean, when you think about it, I can remember Billy Martin. He managed what, 5 different teams, or the Yankees 5 times, and about 3 or 4 different teams. Well, and he won a World Series with the Yankees, right? Managing, and he won 4 with the Yankees as a player, and Mickey won 5, right? Let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Oh, 7.
Dad, I think, didn't Dad and Billy? Well, Billy left after the 57 series, right?
He left after 56. I mean, he was mid-season 57.
57, that's right.
But they played in 12 World Series.
I think. Yes. Wow.
Dad
won 7 of the series. So
7, that's right. 7.
Yeah, because Dad got called up late in 50.
That's right.
My father played for Casey Stengel in 48 in the Pacific Coast League, and roomed with the first black player to play in that league, volunteered too. Casey got the Yankee job the next year, 49. He had them sign my father in 50 and brought him up late. He didn't even get in his first game for almost 2 weeks. Because Casey brought him up because he didn't need another infielder. He wanted my father's brain. He wanted my father's mouth and grit in the dugout. And, Dad didn't get in a game until they were like up 7 or 8 runs on the Red Sox in Fenway. And Dad led off the 8th inning late in the game, got a double in his first at bat in Fenway, got up again in that same inning and got another hit. And the great Joe DiMaggio said, "Way to break in, kid." So Dad got to go to that World Series in 50. He obviously didn't have much of a role in it. And then his true rookie year was the same as Mickey and Whitey's in 1950.
51. Yeah. Because I was looking at his stats. I was doing a little research, and I saw he scored a run in the 1950 World Series.
Yes, he did.
They didn't have an at bat, but he scored a run, so he must have pitched, run, or walked, whatever they had. That's right. Yep, I saw that. Yeah.
Well, think about this. Those 3 guys. I mean, Whitey and Mickey were Hall of Fame players, right. But when it comes to being World Series players, they would also be in that Hall of Fame. All 3 of them.
That's right.
Absolutely. My father took it to another level. He was he batted in the 8 hole unless Whitey was pitching. Casey would stick Whitey ahead of my father in the lineup just to piss him off a little bit because they were so close. But Whitey was a 290 hitter. But in the World Series, my father would bat after Mickey. And think about this. They were making a big deal about Corey Seager being the second shortstop in history to hit 6 home runs in the World Series. My father hit 5. My father hit 3 back-to-back with Mickey Mantle.
Wow.
My father, the 247 hitter who had a 350 slugging percentage in the regular season. But in the postseason, he was a different animal.
Yeah. Well, he certainly was. In 52, when he made that catch off Jackie Robinson, I looked on it on YouTube just yesterday, and it said that 2 runs, it was a bottom of the 7th, it was the 7th game and at Ebbets Field of the 52 series, and he saved the series because they would have tied the score up right there on a little small cheap hit like that. So he made a great play. He was always in it, and in 53 he wins the MVP.
Yeah, it's funny because I've told so many people, I said, just do me a favor, go look at Billy Martin's records in World Series play.
That's right. Very intense.
Stats. They were just unbelievable. So,
Donald, do you believe that Billy should be in the Hall of Fame?
I certainly do. Oh, I certainly do. Are you kidding?
How could he not?
Right? 4 World Series, his manager. I just think his whole personality, he was such a part of baseball. Why wouldn't they have him in? It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. Right. Sure.
That's to us. I know that. So,
well, as a manager, only 3 managers took 4 different teams to the postseason. My father, Dusty Baker, who's going in the Hall of Fame, and Tony La Russa, who's already there. And Dusty's the only one to take 5 teams to the postseason. Dad's winning percentage is better than 10 of the managers in the Hall of Fame right now.
That's right. That's right.
So let's hope they figure it out one day and put him in. I mean, the thing that hurts him is all the drama with he and George, and that he never stayed in one place for a long period of time like every other manager that's in the Hall of Fame. But if you want to look at it one way or another, look at it this way. He and Whitey Herzog managed the same team, the Texas Rangers. Whitey lost 108 games in 1973. My father took the same team over and almost won 90 games and finished second to Oakland, who won their 3rd World Series in a row. Well, that's them managing the same team. Then Dad went to the Yankees. They played the Royals in the postseason 2 years in a row, managed by who? Whitey Herzog, who belongs in the Hall of Fame. I do not mean to discredit that great man at all, but my father managed against him and beat him. They managed the same team, and my father won with that team. So I think that's enough of a reason right there.
I agree. Billy, what was your dad's lifetime postseason, which we won't use the word postseason because it's World Series batting average? What was his World Series batting average?
He was a 333 World Series hitter in 100 at-bats.
Right. And you know what? We ran long on the episode tonight, so I don't want to make it into a marathon, but we could do a whole nother show on this. Consider this, gentlemen, when you look at how these analytics departments have taken control of the game, it's folly to think that they believe that there's no such thing as a hot hitter or a clutch player. They don't believe in clutch. How can that be, Donald? Okay, you don't believe in clutch. Let's just take a gander at Billy Martin. Okay, 333 batting average in the postseason. You just waxed poetic about that catch against Jackie Robinson. Okay, he makes a play that no one wanted any part of. That pop-up, it was windblown. That's not clutch.
Oh, yeah.
That's the problem that I have with the analytics. It's just, there's nothing wrong with analytics. It's just another word for data, information. Of course it's good, but you cannot let it control the game. My favorite manager, I think the best manager the Yankees ever had between the white lines was Billy Martin. I'm not saying, I mean, I hold so near and dear to me the dynasty years of Jeter with Joe Torre. It's nothing against Joe Torre. But when it came to, when it came to strategy, when it came to understanding the game and understanding the human element, there was nobody like Billy Martin. And guess what? You know what part of that was? Intimidation. Okay. Everything, the whole thing. Where are you going to find that on where are you going to find that on a data sheet, Donald? I mean, I don't have to sell you. I know, but I'm just making the point.
When he made that play, one of the coolest things he did, he ran off the field. He made the play. He didn't stop, and he ran off the field towards the third baseline, because we're at Ebbets Field, and threw the ball behind his back to the mound, because they used to take the baseball and throw it to, roll it to the pitcher's mound all the time. That's what they did. They made the last out, but he came running in, caught the ball, kept running towards the dugout, and just flipped it kind of behind his back towards the mound. And like it was nothing. Boom. And it was a World Series saving catch. And what was the ball hit? 50 feet, 60 feet? That's it. Usually you make the great play up against the wall, 400 feet. Or a diving play at third base, but and they won. They just kept winning and winning and winning and playing hard.
Well, think about this. We're talking about analytics, Mike, and if you talk to an analytics guy, he would stick a gun in his mouth before he would allow the great Mickey Mantle to lay down a bunt. Okay? Something Mickey did quite often. If he got into a funk or whatever, he would just lay down a drag bunt and get a hit just to get his mojo back and get things going. That would anger analytics people so much that somebody with maybe more natural power than anybody who's ever played the game that would do that. And it's sadly what the game is missing right now. It's missing a hitter going to the plate with an agenda, with a job, because that job's different every at bat. It's not just to hit a home run. It's to get on base. It's to move a runner over. It's to knock in a run. I miss that part of the game right now. I miss hitters stepping up there going, okay, this is my job right now. And that's something that our dads not only understood, but embraced and took pride in doing.
Yeah.
Moving the runner up and over.
Yeah.
Over and in. Over and in.
And that was one thing Dad used to say about Billy all the time, because people would always say, well, what makes Billy such a great manager? And Dad would say, because his players know he'd be the first one off the cliff. They just loved playing for him,
Oh, yeah.
They knew he was out there to win, and that's what he did,
And Danny, Donald made this point before, but let me ask you a question. In his Triple Crown year, what was Mickey's batting average? 353?
353.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. The interesting thing, and Donald alluded to it in that season, because he alluded to how great of a bunter he was. To win the Triple Crown, he had to win the batting title. To win the batting title, he had to beat out none other than Ted Williams. To beat out Ted Williams, okay, who had a 345 batting average, he laid down successfully 12 bunts that year out of 20 attempts. So that put him over the top in terms of lifting his batting average. Someone came to him and they said, like, are you, because he was also going for Babe Ruth's record of, 60 homer. He's trying to, but they went to him and they said, are you laying down a bunt to pad your batting average or something like this? And he goes, hell no. He goes, when I lay down a bunt, it's to get a rally going, to win a ball game. That's right. What it's all about. Because when he laid down a bunt, it took one less at bat away, Donald, for him to go after, the number 60. So no, it's a different game. It's a different game now.
Player. Yeah. And I've heard of the Yankees say, even in the clubhouse, he was always there to help someone. Always. Muscow said a million things about Mickey Mantle and how he would go over to somebody and help them out in one way or the other, So he was a leader. He was the reason that they won 5 and he won 7. So World Series. That's a bunch.
That's what made all those guys, especially Dad, Billy, and Whitey. I mean, they wanted to win so bad, I mean, not that these guys today don't, but I'm just saying, that was their big thing. The Yankees were in the World Series just about every year, I think,
Well, that's right. That's another thing with analytics. We talk about. We talked about this earlier on in the show. I mentioned it. I said that the analytics guys, if you don't win, then they say, well, the postseason is a crapshoot. How could, I'm not picking on Brian Cashman, but how could Brian Cashman say, the postseason is a crapshoot when the Yankees have 27 championships? So you're saying the Yankees are the luckiest team? Like, we're going to take Lou Gehrig, that famous on the luckiest man. So the Yankees were the luckiest team on the face of the earth? No, it's not luck. Okay, there is a degree of uncertainty when you're playing great teams, etc., like that. But the way the team is built, style, everything about it was a winning culture. Donald, we want to thank you. If you have anything in closing to say to Billy and Danny, and then
And I do.
Go ahead.
What a privilege. Billy Martin, Billy Ball, what an attitude, just great. And Mickey Mantle, he was a demigod to me. He was something so special that I said I had his clippings in my wallet. It was just so privileged to meet these two guys and to say, God bless your fathers, and God bless the Yankees, and God bless America. How about that?
That sounds really good. And thank you. Thank you, Don.
Thank you very much. I'm going to call you Danny. Is that all right?
That's fine. Thanks for your service too, sir. That's
all right. Thank you.
Danny hit it on the head. He said, thank you for your service. I'm going to speak for Danny and for Billy because I know your story a little. I know your story. They don't. They just heard a little bit of it. And Danny, I'm glad you said that. Thank you for your service, because Danny and Billy, what I want to say is, when Donald was telling the story about Mickey's press clipping in his wallet, he mentioned that he was bleeding to death, and that's not hyperbole. He was not only in Vietnam, he was in the Tet Offensive, which was the height, escalated the height of the Vietnam War. And when he was medevaced to Japan, just as he's saying, it's just such a story that ties things together. So he's laying and potentially bleeding to death, laying in a hospital bed, and the guy next to him is from Oklahoma, and they have nothing in common. Hey, where are you from? I'm from New York. Where are you from? I'm from Oklahoma. He says, I'm a Yankee fan. And the guy from Oklahoma goes, yeah, me too. How are you? Right. And it's because of Mickey Mantle. But so what I want to say, Donald, is it's a thrill, for you to meet these two gentlemen, and it
really is
magical. But at the same time, we want to say to you, thank you for your service, because the word hero is thrown around a lot. And in a sports context, there were no better heroes than their dads. We want to say to you, you're a real life hero. We want to thank you for your service. A couple of times, guys, he had to take a sip of water and whatnot. Not only comes back, okay, he's a decorated FDNY. He was digging on the pile after 9/11. Okay. So you can make a movie out of his life. So Donald, we want to thank you. I want to thank you for your service, and thank you for your time tonight.
Hey, thank you, Michael. God bless you.
Happy Thanksgiving to you, your beautiful wife, Nancy, your son, Donald, that got us online with Zoom, and thank him too. And happy Thanksgiving to you and your beautiful family.
And tell Carol we love her.